The European Union is not the only region facing a refugee and migrant crisis. Africa is still searching for ways to cope with the millions of refugees displaced from conflicts across the continent. Earlier this year, the conflict in Burundi caused 70,000 people to flee into Tanzania. But behind the media's portrayal of a refugee crisis depicting basic living conditions, illness and food scarcity, aid workers spend long hours bringing order to the influx of needy people and assistance wherever needed. Now, joining us via Skype from Tanzania is the United Nations High Commission for Refugees representative and aid worker, Joyce Mends-Cole. Very good morning to you, Joyce. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning to you, and thank you for having me on your show.
I think there are many people who don't realize what an aid worker's job entails. Just give us an idea within the camps what your day looks like.
Oh, I wish it could be said that there's a typical day. But for myself as the representative, there's no typical day. If I'm in the camps, then of course I'm involved with my field staff. I'm involved in making decisions about a large range of issues, from water to food issues, along with World Food Program, to shelter, to protection, particularly of women and children. As the representative, I also have representation responsibilities, which means liaising with the government, regional authorities, local authorities in large measure. So it really depends on whether it is in an emergency situation or protracted situation. Yeah. And we have both here.
Just to give us a quick insight into conditions in the camp and the refugee situation we're having in Tanzania at the moment.
We had an influx from Burundi due to the conflict, as you probably know, that is continuing in that country. There is a level of instability, and there have been continued assassinations of a number of political figures. And early on, before the elections that were held, we had a mass influx. We have now just over 90,000 Burundians who have sought safety in Tanzania as a result of that conflict. The conditions are very, very difficult. Serious congestion as a result of the fact that Tanzania really only had one remaining camp. This is a result of actually the generosity of Tanzania having given citizenship to almost 200,000 former Burundian refugees in another part of Tanzania, as well as the generosity of the United States of America, which has offered to take 30,000 Congolese refugees. So had the influx not occurred, we would have been left with some 30 or 34,000 Tanzanians. As a result, we have over 157,000 in one camp. This is highly unusual for Tanzania because their preference is to have no more than 50 or 60,000. So we are very grateful to the government, which has agreed to give us 3 additional sites. And we are planning to relocate as urgently as we can by October 1st, at least 20,000 first, and then gradually to reach to at least 50,000 by the end of this year. But just one last thought. We hope everybody will send us good thoughts, because the El Nino factor, or even just the regular rainy season, will pose a lot of challenges for us and all of our partners.
What's the most difficult aspects of working in these camps, and what are some of the most heartbreaking decisions that you've had to make?
I would say the most difficult at the moment is the congestion. Because of the lack of resources, and that does not mean that we have not received some resources, but really we are underfunded. And so therefore, people really are not living in full dignity. We have protection issues. We have not been able to give people the amount of water that we should have. The standard is 20 liters a day. because of the congestion and the difficulty in digging boreholes, we have sometimes not been able to give people more than 10 litres. We're working very hard on this issue to try to, in some places, parts of the camp we have raised it to 14 litres, and elsewhere, we have done a bit better. But there are some who are still getting only 10 litres a day, which is insufficient for drinking, washing, and so we can see that there are some sanitation problems as well. I would say also that really, I'm not sure I've had to make a heartbreaking decision, but some of the decisions have been imposed upon me simply by the circumstances. I would want every woman, girl, man and boy to be safe in Nyarugusu camp. Unfortunately, we see that women and girls really have to still receive special protection to ensure that they are not victims of sexual and gender-based violence. And so we're working with a number of partners to try to ensure that. But I think that the heartbreaking part is that many of these refugees were here in Tanzania before, and about 35,000 returned to Burundi. But unfortunately, they could not find peace and safety in their country. And so we're seeing a sort of a cycle of pain and sorrow.
Thank you for joining us this morning. That's the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, representative and aid worker, Joyce Mends-Cole, and she came to us via Skype from Tanzania. It's time for us to take a short break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News.